It started with the whispering. In the forgotten town of Brierwood, where the fog seemed thicker and the night stretched darker than anywhere else, an abandoned orphanage loomed at the edge of the forest. No one dared to step foot there, not since the night everyone remembered, but no one spoke of. Yet, when the whispering began, it was heard from the cracks of its boarded windows and carried on the icy winds that snaked through the empty streets. Wenda was the first to hear it. A loner by choice, she preferred the quiet of her sketchbook and the glow of her flashlight over people. But that night, as she sketched the silhouettes of the dead trees outside her bedroom window, she heard it, a soft, melodic voice calling her name. Her blood turned cold. Her pencil froze mid-line. She stared out at the orphanage in the distance, its rotting frame barely visible through the mist. She told herself it was the wind. It had to be. But deep down, she knew better. The next day, she told Pinks. Pinks, short for Penelope, was Wenda's polar opposite, bright, bubbly, and reckless to a fault. Her magenta hair was as loud as her personality, and she lived for thrills. When Wenda described the voice, Pinks's eyes lit up. "We have to check it out," she exclaimed. Wenda groaned, knowing resistance was futile. Pinks always got her way. Simon and Red joined them at dusk. Simon, the group's skeptic, had a sharp tongue and an even sharper mind, but he never missed a chance to prove everyone wrong. Red, quiet and brooding, carried an aura of mystery that no one could penetrate. He rarely spoke, but when he did, people listened. "This is a bad idea," Wenda muttered as they approached the rusting gates of the orphanage. The place reeked of decay and memories better left forgotten. "Bad ideas make the best stories," Pinks shot back, already halfway through the gate. Simon rolled his eyes but followed, muttering about ghost stories and gullible people. Red lingered for a moment, staring up at the broken windows with an unreadable expression, then silently stepped inside. The air inside was colder than it should have been. Their flashlights flickered, casting jagged shadows on the peeling wallpaper and shattered furniture. Every creak of the floorboards felt amplified, every breath an intrusion on the silence. "This place is dead," Simon said, his voice echoing in the empty hall. "Nothing here but mold and bad architecture." "Shh," Wenda hissed. The whispering was back, faint but distinct, a melodic hum like a child's lullaby sung off-key. Her stomach churned as she realized it was coming from upstairs. "Let's check it out," Pink said. "Or we could not," Wenda said, but followed anyway. They all did. Something about the voice felt wrong, but it pulled them in, an invisible thread they couldn't resist. The second floor was worse. The air felt heavy, the kind of heavy that made your lungs work harder, like the atmosphere itself didn't want them there. The whispering grew louder, forming words they couldn't quite understand. Wenda's flashlight caught a door at the end of the hall, slightly ajar. "That's where it's coming from," Red said, speaking for the first time that night. His deep voice sent shivers down Wenda's spine. Pinks pushed the door open without hesitation. Inside was a nursery, or what was left of it, A dozen cribs lined the walls, their metal frames rusted and warped. Torn toys and yellowed sheets littered the floor. In the center of the room stood a single music box, its lid open, spinning slowly, though no one had touched it. "Okay, that's creepy as hell," Simon admitted, stepping closer to inspect it. The melody it played was the same as the whispers. "Don't touch it," Red warned, but it was too late. Simon's fingers brushed the edge of the box, and the room went dark. The door slammed shut behind them. The melody twisted, warping into a cacophony of shrill notes and guttural whispers. Benna's flashlight flickered back to life, revealing figures standing in the cribs. Children. Their eyes were hollow voids, their faces contorted into expressions of rage and sorrow. One by one, they turned to face the group. "Run!" Red said, his voice calm but firm. No one argued. They bolted for the door, but the hallway had changed. It stretched endlessly in both directions, the walls pulsating as if alive. The whispering grew deafening, a chorus of voices crying out for something they couldn't understand. "This isn't real," Simon shouted, though his voice trembled. "It can't be real. Does it matter?" Wenda shot back, dragging Pinks by the arm as she stumbled. "Just keep moving." Red suddenly stopped, turning to face the shadows creeping toward them. "Go," he said. "I'll hold them off." "What are you talking about?" Pinks cried. "We're not leaving you." But Red was already walking toward the darkness, his form swallowed by the void. The whispers receded for a moment, as if acknowledging his presence. Then, with a deafening roar, they surged forward again. The others ran, their breaths ragged, their hearts pounding. They didn't stop until they burst through the front doors, collapsing on the overgrown lawn. They didn't stop until they burst through the front doors, collapsing onto the overgrown lawn. The orphanage stood silent and still behind them, as if nothing had happened. Red was gone. They never saw him again. But sometimes, late at night, Wenda swore she could still hear his voice in the whispering wind, calling her name.